Well, happy good Erev Shabbos to all. It's so amazing how time just moves so quickly. And here we are again with our pre-Shabbat sermon and song program to help get us into the spirit of Shabbos. Along together today with our good friend, resident song or singer, Matt Check, who will be joining us in just a moment. But before I do that, I just want to remind everyone, and I'll remind you again, that this coming Tuesday evening, let me bring that up here on the screen. This coming Tuesday evening, there will be a special event in memory commemorating the Rebbe's 26th yard site. And every year we get together in some central location in Philadelphia, all the Chabad centers together. However, this year, because of circumstances, we'll be doing a virtual event. And you can go to the website, which is 26minutes26voices.com. And on Tuesday evening at 7:30, you'll be introduced to an extraordinary, beautiful program. If you go to the website, you scroll down, you'll see the speakers, the opportunities, and the possibilities that will be available for that night. So again, on this Tuesday, June 23rd, 7:30 p.m., if you go to the website 26minutes26voices.com, you will have a fascinating program. But tonight is Shabbat, and before Shabbos, we have our sermon and our song. So we're going to introduce Matt back onto our Shabbos scene, and he's going to lead us. Today's opening song will be Lecha Dodi, I believe, right, Matt? Got to unmute yourself. Oh, I got to unmute you.
Yeah.
All right, there you are. Okay. And Lecha Dodi is that beautiful Shabbos song in which we welcome the Shabbat, comparing Shabbos to the bride. You have been to a wedding, and I'm sure everyone's been to a wedding. You know, the moment when the bride walks into the chuppah is a very special moment. That's exactly the moment that we experience as we welcome Shabbat into our lives. So, Matt, bring us into the spirit of Shabbos, bring us into in spirit all together. Lecha Dodi.
Lecha Dodi. We're going to do the Lecha Dodi. You're going to recognize the melody. It's a really fun and uplifting melody. And I'm just going to sing the Lecha Dodi lyrics, and then I'm going to go 999, and you can feel free to sing along in your homes with us and bring in the spirit of Shabbat. You're going to recognize the melody right away. It goes like this. Lecha Dodi Likrat Kala Penei Shabbat Nekabela. Feel free to sing along with us. Lecha Dodi Likrat Kala Penei Shabbat Nekabela. Ay 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 nine 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 Lecha Dodi Likrat Kala Penei Shabbat Nekabela.
Yasher Koach, Matt. And Matt has informed me that he actually has a recording called the Bluegrass Kabbalat Shabbat, experienced by Matt Chak. So why don't you Google that, the Bluegrass Kabbalat Shabbat experience by Matt Chak. What is that, a iTunes CD?
Well, it's on all the things. It's definitely on iTunes. Yeah, if you just Google it, it'll come up. Yeah, we do all of the bluegrass. We do the Kabbalat Shabbat with a bluegrass band. It's really fun.
Great.
Yeah.
So listen, you got a little taste of Matt. And by the way, everyone, happy birthday, Matt. Today, this week was Matt's birthday. So let's all wish him a happy birthday. You should have a very successful and meaningful year. And hopefully we'll have many good occasions and happy occasions to share with each other.
B'simcha.
Amen. Happy birthday, Yom Holedet Sameach. So, my dear friends, it's Shabbos again. And on Shabbos, we read the Torah. And there's always amazing and fascinating lessons that we learn from the timeless Torah with timely messages. You know, I heard this joke the other day that there were 4 Catholic mothers and 1 Jewish woman were having coffee around the coffee table. And the first Catholic woman tells her friends, you know, my son's a priest. Whenever he walks into the room, everyone calls him father. The second woman says, you know, that's interesting, but my son's a bishop. And when he walks in, everyone calls him your grace. The third mom says, my son is a cardinal. And every time they walk in, they call him your eminence. The fourth Catholic woman wasn't going to be outdone. She says, my son is actually the Pope. And when he walks into the room, they call him your holiness. Then all of a sudden, all the eyes turn to the Jewish woman and say, oh, how's she going to outdo that one? And to which she replies, I have a son. He's argumentative, confrontational, self-centered, narcissistic, impulsive, impossible, irrational, wrecks a party. Whenever he walks into the room, everyone says, oh my God. My friends, God, this is this week's portion. Believe it or not, although the entire Torah talks about God, this week's Torah portion is a very complicated portion. It gets to the core of issues of faith. We talk about the stories of the spies as the Jewish people were leaving Egypt. Remember that story on the way to Israel? Then there were the 12 spies who were actually the leaders of the Jewish people, who came back with a very negative, almost anti-God report. This was leadership, except 2 of the spies. And the entire story is filled with struggle, with issues of struggle with faith. How strong this faith really is in guiding and leading you toward that which you need to do. But I'm going to do something else today. We talk a lot of deep issues on faith and ideas throughout the week, throughout the last few weeks' sermon. I'm going to take a little different direction today. I want to keep it a little lighter, very meaningful, but just a little bit lighter. And instead of talking about deep philosophical ideas of faith and dealing with issues that we are in society today, I want to deal with a very beautiful tradition, a simple tradition, a delicious tradition, something that practically every Jewish person knows about, challah. I tell you about the challah bread. What kind of feelings, what kind of good Jewish comfort comes to you? The real ultimate comfort food, challah, especially if you taste Miriam's challah. It's that delicious, soft feeling of faith and tradition, the challah bread. Where does that come from? Why do we eat challah on Shabbat? It actually comes from this week's portion. Because after the spies had sinned and the Jewish people were now punished of not going into the land of Israel, the Torah turns to a message that although the arrival to the land of Israel in that journey of the Jewish people was delayed, it was not forgotten about. And the Jewish people will be entering the land of Israel. And God gives them different mitzvot that they would have to observe when they go there. And one of those mitzvot is in verse 18 in chapter 15. And God tells to Moses, speak to the children of Israel and say to them, when you come to the land I'm bringing you there, it shall be, when you eat from the bread of the land, you shall separate it a gift for God. When you eat from the bread of the land, the first of your kneading basket, you shall separate a loaf as a gift. In real English, that means like this. When you're eating your bread, the first parts of that bread should be designated to God. So in fact, the interesting thing is that biblically, when we eat challah, the idea of challah is not what we eat. The real meaning of mitzvah is what we don't eat. It's the piece that we separate for God. And in fact, when Jewish women, men, bakers bake challah, before they start to knead the dough, they take off a piece of the bread and they set it aside not to be eaten. So the challah actually is not the bread that we eat. what was taken away from it to designate it for God. And there's a very, very deep message. What is God telling us? When you're standing with your bread and you're succeeded to be able to knead the dough and eat some bread, remember where it came from. Be thankful to God who's giving you that food. So when we eat the challah, it reminds us not of what we're eating, but where it comes from. But here's the question, my dear friends. And here's the very important message that we're going to learn today. It doesn't say, when you have the bread in front of you, take a piece of the bread and put it away. It says, in order to eat your bread, take a piece of the dough away. So in other words, it's not telling you to separate the bread while it's in front of you. It's telling you when you're preparing to eat bread, take the dough from it. And this is the question, is why? It would make a lot more sense when I'm eating my bread that is there sitting on the table, that I take a piece and set it aside. I don't bake the bread. I don't make the dough. So the person making the dough isn't eating the bread, typically, the baker, and the person eating the bread isn't eating the dough. If the whole idea is gratitude, it should be on the spot with the food straight in front of you. And here is the very fundamental lesson that the Torah is trying to teach us. When do things really begin? What do we really need to be grateful for? For what we have in front of us, or the process that brought it to us? When do things really happen? Not at the end of the project, not in the middle of the project, but in the planning of the project. You know, there's this idea called preventative medicine. I've heard from some of my friends who are doctors that a big problem that resulted from the corona were that people didn't go to the doctor or hospital for other medical needs because they were scared of catching the disease. What happened, unfortunately, was that whatever they were dealing with wasn't taken care of and progressed. Stage 3 cancer, stage 4 cancer, I heard this week, or progressive or very serious heart condition, depends which doctor I spoke to. But the point is that when you're feeling sick, that's not where it began. It began earlier. And many insurance companies actually pay for working out and preventative measures so they don't have to pay the big doctor bills. So the idea of preventative medicine, of realizing that things start before you're able to see that, is a very important message. The reason, in fact, that today many more people that we know may have cancer is because technology is able to detect it early. And that's why so many people survive cancer. Because it doesn't just happen when you start to see the lump. If you're able to detect it in the earlier stages, you're able to deal with it properly. Same thing is with education. How we educate our children has an impact on the entire life. We can't just say, I'm just going to educate my child without any spiritual values, without any religious ideas, without any moral ideas at all. And I'll let them decide when they become a teenager or when they become an adult. That's a big mistake, because one's clarity of life begins when you educate the child at a very young age. In fact, I'll tell you a little story. This woman was so excited, this couple were so excited that they had a baby, that right away ran to the father, to the rabbi of the town, and says, Rabbi, we're so excited with our newborn. We want to do it right. Tell us how to begin educating our child now. The rabbi tells him, I'd love to, but you're 9 months too late. You should have began right at the moment of conception. And in fact, modern technology, modern educational technology or educational theory believes that what happens to the mom while she's carrying the baby, the type of music she listens to, type of experiences she has a direct impact on the child. So things don't happen when your child becomes an adult or teenager, not even when they're young. It's how we start the very beginning that becomes the foundation of what happens. We don't just thank God when we have the bread. We have to realize there's a process that begins that. And this becomes something very important in our lives. Why is this so important in our lives? Because we all like to live meaningful lives. You go through the day, you want to have a sense of purpose. You want to have a sense of meaning. You want to know that you're really making a difference. And this is what the Torah is trying to teach us. If you want to have meaning during your day, make sure you start the day with meaning and purpose. It's not just how you start the day. How you start the day becomes the foundation of that day. How you set the tone when you wake up in the morning becomes the foundation of how the rest of the day happens. So like I said before, if you want the day to be meaningful, purposeful, how do you begin the day? How do you start the day? What are the first things that you do when you open your eyes? You know, a number of years ago, I saw this crazy statistic, which I'm sure is a lot worse today, that 75% of the people, the first thing they do in the morning is go for their cell phone. And I'm going to ask you, I don't see your answer, but you know your answer. Be honest. What is the first thing you do when you wake up in the morning after you open your eyes? What do you grab? What do you grab? Typically, it's the phone. You want to check what happened with this and that. Don't do that. That beginning of moment of the day is the most precious of the day. Just like the challah, what happens later in the day starts from the very beginning. That's why there's a Jewish tradition of Moda Ani, as soon as you open your eyes, even before you get out of bed, you say a prayer of gratitude for God giving you life and life to live for a purpose. That's how a Jewish person begins their day. You begin the first moments, not to catch up on WhatsApp, text, email, Facebook, Instagram, whatever it is, the first thing you check. The first thing you need to check in the morning is your soul. The first thing you need to tell yourself in the morning, I'm alive. I have a purpose. I have meaning. Even before you drink your coffee, even before you read the newspaper, or even before you read the news on your phone or iPad or whatever it is that you check the first thing. The first thing is the foundation of the day. Why start the foundation of the day with all the mishigas that's going on around the world? Why create the foundation of the day with such frustration of what you could do, what you can't do? If you start the day with a sense of purpose, of gratitude, of meaning, of mission, then the rest of the day will be influenced with that message. And that's a problem when it comes to spirituality. When we talk about purpose, when we talk about mission, when we talk about gratitude to God, usually there's a disconnect. We take care of God in the synagogue. We take care of God on Shabbat. We take care of God maybe a few minutes during the day when we study. And all that spiritual, meaningful stuff is separate from the rest of the day. You know, there's a story, I think I shared it recently. Somebody once said, it's so great when you have your whole family, your in-laws, your mother-in-law, your father-in-law, your cousins, your nieces and nephews living together somewhere else. Now, I know I said this recently, but it's important. Same things with God. It's great that we talk about purpose and mission and meaning and all these wonderful things, but not now, Rabbi. That's for Shabbos. That's for shul. Now I got to focus on my business. So I want to share two little anecdotes before we conclude. There's once a rabbi giving a sermon, real story. I heard this about 5-6 years ago. And he said, I have one objective with my sermon. He said, when people come into synagogue, everyone comes into synagogue talking about what's going on outside of the synagogue, the stock market, the fashion, sports. In other words, everybody, there's some synagogues even have choices where you want to sit next to people talk about this or people talk about that. Because you come into the synagogue and you bring in all the news from the world into the synagogue. My hope is that you take one idea that you heard in the synagogue and talk about it outside of the synagogue. Connect the purpose and meaning in this purpose and meaningful place to your entire life. In fact, there's a story of a chassid whose name was Rabbi Binyamin Kletzker. The word Kletzker, here I'll teach you another Yiddish word. Anybody heard the word klutz? You're such a klutz. Where does the word klutz come from? So klutz is a word that's used in Yiddish for a piece of wood. So a lumberjack was called a kletzker, a guy who dealt with klutzes, with not people klutzes, but actual wood. And so he was a very successful businessman. And at the end of his financial year, he goes to his accountant. They're going through all the numbers, the P&L. When it comes to the bottom line, Reb Binyamin writes, Ein od milvado. There's nothing but God. That's the total of everything. The sum of everything is that only God exists. His accountant looks at it and says, listen, Reb Yid, Binyamin, I get you. You're a faithful man. You're a believer. But this is business. Don't bring these mystical, godly ideas into business. You got to know what's the bottom line. So Binyamin tells his accountant, and this story has guided me many times. He tells his accountant, listen, if I can think about business while I'm speaking to God in shul, why can't I think about God while I'm doing business in my office? And there's truth to that. In life, we have to live connected. There's no detached moments. The beginning of the day, the first moments of the day, influence directly the rest of the day. And if we want the entire day to be influenced with holiness, then we must set the tone properly. And this is the idea of that challah. When you're going to eat challah tonight, remember, this challah really started from way before you ate it. Because in life, every moment is interconnected. The beginning influences the middle. And the middle cannot be influenced if it doesn't have a proper foundation. When you eat the challah, remember, it's not just the challah. It's education, but more importantly, your life. That as you go through the day, as you go through the week, make sure the foundational moments of Shabbat, the foundational moments that you wake up, are infused with a clarity of purpose and mission, a gratitude for life, which is the most critical tool that we need today as we get through these challenging times. So I want to conclude with what we began before the sermon, that in a few days, we're going to be observing the yahrzeit of the Rebbe. The formal yahrzeit will be, I believe it's on Thursday. Let me see my calendar. Gimel Tammuz is on Thursday. But in Philadelphia area, we're going to be observing it Tuesday evening, 26 minutes, 26voices.com. So I want to conclude with a small anecdote of perhaps one of the most important messages of the Rebbe that is connected to what we're saying today. And it's an anecdote that took place with Rabbi Yisrael Meir Lau, the former chief rabbi of Israel, the father of the current chief rabbi of Israel. And he had a very close relationship with the Rebbe. And the Rebbe once asked him, like, what's going on in Israel? So during a very hard time when everybody, after a particular war, and everybody was just down and the mood wasn't good. And the Rebbe said, Rabbi Lau said, he doesn't know. He doesn't know was wird sein. That's a way of Yiddish saying is what's going to be. Was wird sein. And the Rebbe told him these powerful words that I think are so relevant and so critically important for now. The Rebbe said, a Jew should never say what's going to be. Was wird sein. A Jew must always say, was wird mintan. What are we going to do? Don't ask what's going to be. What's going to be is a surrender, and in fact, it's not up to us what's going to be. We are people of faith that know it's going to be the way God wants it to be. The question for us is, what can we do? What should we do? And what you should do is what you should do. You shouldn't want to do what other people that are capable of doing more should do. You have to ask yourself, what can I do and what will I do? I can't change the whole world, but every one of us has something to do. When you wake up in the morning, you say the Modani, and you're grateful to God for giving you another day. Think, what am I going to do with that day? Don't give up about what's happening, what's going to be. It's going to be good, my friends. We're promised it's going to be good, and it's going to be good. The question is not what's going to be. The question is, what can I do? And what will I do? And when we start that day with that question and the inspiration that you could do something, even if you may not have the answer in the second moment of the day, you will find the answer. You'll find the opportunity, and you'll seize the opportunity during the day, during the week, and during the year. Have a wonderful Shabbos. Have a meaningful Shabbos. Have an inspiring Shabbos. But remember, when you eat the challah, that whatever inspires you this moment in Shabbos in the morning is what's going to carry you and become the foundation of everything else that we do. So, my dear friends, in order to absorb this message a little better, it's always good to have a good nigun. It's always good to have a good Hasidic tune. And what I've asked Matt to do for this Shabbos is to play a tune that was very close to the Rebbe. It's an upbeat tune. Rebbe taught his Hasidim 10 different melodies, but this one is a very meaningful one that really created a lot of joy and a lot of energy when the Rebbe would sing it. It's a section of prayers on the holiday Musaf, Ata V'chartanu. It talks about what our purpose in this world is as Jews, and what the purpose to elevate the world through the elevation of the Torah mitzvot. That's ultimately the Rebbe's theme. What are you going to do? We can talk about what it means to be a Jew. We can analyze what it means to be a Jew. We can study what it means to be a Jew. That's all great. What are we going to do about it? Matt, teach us the nigun, Ata V'chartanu.
Ata bechartanu mikol amim, ahavta otanu v'retzatita banu, biramamtanu mikol halashonot, v'kidashtanu b'mitzvotecha, v'keiravtanu Malkeinu le'avodatecha, v'shimcha v'agadol v'hakadosh, aleinu karatot. Yai na 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 na, yai na 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 na, yai na 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 na, yai na 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 na, yai na 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 na, yai na 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 na. Nine 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 nine
Great job, Matt. I want to know, Matt got the chords and the notes just a few hours ago. And you really, I want to tell you, Matt, you took me back to 770, seeing the Rebbe sing this song and uplift the entire crowd and inspire the crowd. So there's definitely that soul connection to the Nigun. Thank you, Matt.
You saw it live?
Absolutely.
That's amazing. Wow.
It was amazing when the Rebbe would sing this. And I'm sure we can Google and find somewhere where the Rebbe is singing the song with the Hasidim. It was typically sung on a Yom Tov, so I'm not sure if there's video of that, but I'll search it. Maybe I'll do it while you sing the next song.
Wonderful.
What's our final song for today before we sign off?
We're going to do a melody to Shalom Rav, which is, it's the liturgy that we do on Friday night, so it's appropriate for now. And Shalom Rav, Al Yisrael Amcha. So just like we sang Ata Bechartanu Mikol Ha'amim, Yisrael Amcha. So we keep the theme about us being the children of Israel.
Okay, we're gonna do that. Meantime, I'm gonna go look for the maybe we can get the Rebbe on the screen. All right,
I love that. That'd be great.
Everybody on the bottom, don't forget the website and the time for the Tuesday's event.
Shalom Rav Al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki atahu melech adom lechol hashalom. Ki atahu melech adom lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav Al Yisrael Amcha tasim leolam. Shalom rahav al Yisrael amcha, tasim leolam. V'tov beinecha levarech et amcha Yisrael, v'cholei v'chosha Ishlomecha. Shalom rahav al Yisrael amcha, tasim leolam. Shalom rahav al Yisrael amcha, tasim leolam. Tasim leolam. Tasim leolam.
That was really beautiful, Matt. Yashakoach. And again, everyone, hope to see you on Tuesday. I did find the YouTube.
Oh, cool.
Let's see if we can stream it in. And if we can, I think we got a little treat for those who want to hang on for another few minutes. Screen share. Here we go, I believe. There we go.
There it is.
Let's see if you hear sound, okay? You'll let me know. Do you hear, Matt?
I hear it.
Wait. All right. Now you know what I mean?
That was amazing. That was so cool to watch.
Yeah. So that's what happens. You know, the Rebbe connects not just to the melody, but to the let me just shut not just to the energies of the song. And you just see how, I mean, the Rebbe is a righteous tzaddik, and it just moves him.
Yeah.
And moves the crowd. So my dear friends, hopefully from that short impromptu video, inspired by the melodies of Matt and the words of the Rebbe, together we will lift ourselves all up and be able to live with this message and realize that, let me get the screen off the bottom, live with the message of what the song really means, what the Rebbe is trying to teach us, and what the Torah really wants from us. And that is, Reshit Arasasechem, the challah bread. Not just to eat more challah, but to understand the message of challah, how important, vital, and critical the moments that we open the day with and the moments that we begin the week with, because that influences purpose, meaning, and direction in everything we do. My dear friends, we went a little longer than usual, and we had this little impromptu treat, but it's very important that we all understand why we're here and do the best we can. And whenever we're feeling despair during these moments that are in these trying times, don't ask that. When you find yourself asking, what's going to be, remind yourself that a Jew asks, what am I going to do? I want to wish everyone a good Shabbos, a meaningful Shabbos. I'll see you Monday morning, 8:30, with an inspiring story. In the meantime, have a good Shabbos.